Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is me, once again, screaming into the void of the internet. I kind of want to talk about something positive real quick. Just a little update. I finally got my stuff. The stuff that my friend was holding on to for a while. I came yesterday. So we're back in business, kind of. My computer works, my PlayStation works, and a few other things work. Unfortunately, my TV, believe it or not, and this is something about me. I always keep the boxes that things come in, so that whenever I do finally do have to move or something, it's just ready to go right back in the packaging, so it's safe, right? Um, my television, okay, it was a 55-inch television, smart TV and everything. It came in the box. I take it out the box, and I see a crack, and I'm kind of concerned. Plug this sucker up, the entire screen's roll. It would be one thing if it was just a crack, but the entire screen's roll. So I'm really hoping that my friend can get quite a bit of compensation out of that because that's freaking insane. I don't understand how my computer that literally didn't even come in a box, they just bubble wrapped it. My computer, you know, like not a crack on the screen, nothing, but the freaking television that was in a box, with the protective foam and all that stuff, a crack in the middle. They may as well have been, bouncing on this like a trampoline. I just it's really irritating. However, my roommate was kind enough to, let me plug up my PlayStation in the living room. And so I played a little bit of games, after almost a year now, I want to say. Um, and it felt surreal. It felt so surreal to, go back and have fun. So I'm happy about that. Uh, as for streaming, it still probably will be a while before we start streaming, folks. I'm just being honest. What I might start doing is I do have a capture card. I was making content on a different channel before. What I might start doing is maybe getting like a terabyte or something, so that way it makes this a lot easier. And just making content like that, just having a whole bunch of videos with some gameplay in the background that I take from my random experiences over here. Should I ever decide to kind of make more podcast style content, because I did used to actually do that. I used to kind of make 30-minute, 40-minute videos talking about topics. So should I kind of want to do that over here, I'll see what happens, right? Now that I have a computer, obviously. But I kind of want to talk about something a bit more serious on on that. And I find it very interesting that people don't realize the damage that they do as parents. They really don't understand how badly they screw other people's lives up. And this is mainly in, relation to these things that I listen to about, adults just talking about how, hey, listen, I was able to buy a house, at say 18 or something like that. And you realize that it's because 9 times out of 10, they had a family that even if they weren't loaded, they at least supported their kids enough to help them achieve things. It's not about just giving them a handout. It's about being able to support them and give them options. You listen to some of these parents that start kicking their kids out at 18, or if they're staying with them, they're charging them $500 a month in rent, and it just eats at the funds that they could have been saving. People try and say that, oh, everyone would be spoiled. That's why I don't believe in inheritances. And I'm like, you say that, and yet at the end of the day, if you have say a lover or something like that, you're gonna make sure that they have some kind of money. So you don't really believe that, you don't really believe that at all. And if you did have money, and you chose not to at least use it to better your own kid, I would not say that you love the kid. I don't necessarily know if giving your kid a butt ton of money right off the get-go is a good idea, but to not to not even attempt to try and give them some kind of advantage in a world that's effing them over. Because some people try to say, oh, I don't think it's fair that they have like an advantage. But I'm like, well, the world isn't fair. You can think that all day, but it's like if they try and just, come up from nothing, then you'll understand why it's important that you really do give them an advantage. It seems like so many people are going through life just winging it. I found out through my mother the other day that my youngest sister, uh she's pregnant now. They're not married, they're not staying together, so I don't know if that's boyfriend or if that's like some kind of hookup thing, but she's pregnant now. She hasn't graduated college or anything, and it's like this is what I'm talking about. It's just this infinite cycle of bad decisions and people just repeating the mistakes over and over again. You know? I find it very interesting that it's always us. It's always the people that say that we don't want kids that would actually plan for the kid. And the people that do have the kids, they just say, oh, whatever. We'll wing it. And look at what's happened when you wing it. This entire generation that exists because our parents just winged it. They didn't care. They didn't think about like any kind of plan. Like what's up with this? Like, is it so hard to have a plan for your kid? Let's just say that even for example, like the plan was all right. I didn't intend to have the kid, but here they are. What I'm gonna do now is from now until they're like 18, I'm gonna have a separate account that I'm never gonna touch, and that's gonna like get $100 every paycheck. $100 every paycheck. That may sound like a lot, but it's like it's for your kid. And I like calculated it. Like let's say that you get paid bi-weekly, right? $100 every paycheck over the course of like 18 years. It would be 46, thousand, but obviously the money's going down, but blah blah blah. I get it. But that would be at least something to like help them begin in life, like you don't even see parents doing that. They just wing it. They just say screw it, like we'll just make it work and stuff, and lo and behold they don't make it work. Lo and behold they treat the kid like crap, and then it harbors resentment for their parents, and then the kids just end up going down like the wrong crowd, or they follow in their parents' footsteps, and it just becomes this infinite loop of broken people raising broken people. I used to have a lot of hatred for my biological father, and I still don't really, I can't say that I like the man, but I at least understand that he's just another broken soul in a broken world. I don't know if I could call it forgiveness, but it's just understanding. Something that that I began to understand is that I am just a person who wants the truth. If the truth is uncomfortable, I'm not going to do what a lot of humans do, and they'll just say, I refuse to believe that. You say you want the truth, now you have the truth. You can't sit around and go, oh, I don't want to believe that because that makes me uncomfortable. No. Like, okay, I've got the truth, And the fact of the matter is just, there's just so many broken people with nothing that are irresponsible that choose to just raise more broken people. I can't really, I really don't know if I could say that your parents love you the way that you think that they do. Once upon a time, people were willing to basically charge a freaking palace, knowing that a good number of them were going to die because that tyrant was ruining their lives and the lives of their kids. They charged that palace. Even now, like they would, not now, but like even in more recent times, they take up arms and fight against someone that was threatening their family. Not now. Now it's just this defeatist attitude. It's very interesting to me that all you hear is, oh, everyone in the doomer space, the black pill space, they're defeatist. And I'm like, this is the most defeatist, like generation of people probably in the history of mankind. No one wants to take action. Everyone waits until things get like horrendous. For example, Japan has just really like one, I think, I don't know if it's a prime minister. I don't know like, the politics of Japan, okay, but a guy who's basically, everyone voted against this policy. He has allowed Africans and Indians to come into that country to try and combat, like the immigration. And a whole bunch of people, in typical fashion, it's just mainly saying, oh, we're not safe for the women. We have to think about the women. And I'm like, listen, it's not going to be safe for anyone in general. Your freaking infrastructure is about to freaking collapse. But here's my question. Why do you wait till the last minute, till the fires are literally picking up the oxygen and spreading around to try and put them out? Why don't we try and put the embers out before they get out of control? And I'll tell you why. It's because so many people always want to say that it's someone else's problem until they can't afford to, disregard it anymore. Because in real time, in that example, the older population, they don't give a rat's arse. They're not going to live long enough to see the consequences of the culture getting destroyed. All that they care about is that their remaining years, whether that be 10 years, 20 years, is going to be them getting looked after and them enjoying their luxury. Even if they're on oxygen, they're still going to be, freaking sipping wine and all these expensive things. That's what they want. And this is why I say, when I say, listen, most of the people in this world, they could talk all this crap about the younger people, but I'm always going to go ahead and look at it from this way. I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I think that they know in their hearts that, hey, listen, I don't really give a rat's arse about these people. I've got, the stuff that I want in my life, and I've got some good experiences, and until the day that I die, I'm going to keep making sure that I get the good experiences, and whatever happens with you, F you. If you got to suffer so that I get something, then you going to suffer. I mean, that's essentially what, like, every freaking society is built on. Whether you want to hide behind capitalism, socialism, communism, whatever the heck you want to call, all of it still goes back to the fact that human hierarchy is going to kick into effect. People are going to believe that they're supposed to just have a whole bunch of stuff, and they're going to be at the top, and you're just going to be the middleman at the bottom, servicing them. That is your existence. That is your role. It's hilarious to me. And parents don't see they don't look at this and go, you know what, let's try and make sure that our kids have, like, some kind of advantage. Let's try and prepare for, the life. Because it's like, I don't even think that they realize what they're doing, You are going to create life. And depending on how you raise that person, I'm not going to pretend that if you're raising perfectly that they still can't be an arsewipe or something, but depending on how you raise that person is going to depend how they interact with, it's going to affect how they interact with everyone else. And if they choose to have kids, like, it will affect how they choose to raise those kids, etc. It can have a rippling effect. And I don't know. People just don't really have, like, they don't have, like, long-sighted vision. They always think in short term and stuff like that, Something really interesting is that somebody got hired at my job, and she's 17. And I at least thought she was, like, 20, but she's 17. And when she saw me, she asked how old I was. And I said, I'm probably a lot older than you think, you know? And when I told her that, like, I was 26, like, she could not believe that. But something interesting that she said was, it's probably also because you still have joy. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, if only you knew, like, if only you knew. But, I do have the youthful appearance, and I don't deny that it's because, like, I feel like in my spirit now, I'm not saying this, like, on a spiritual level, I just mean, like, your spirit's, like, when someone's in good spirits or they're bad spirits, like, when they're up or they're down, that kind of thing. It's a lot more peaceful, now that I'm on my own and I don't have to deal with all this nonsense. But, yeah, you still have joy, and that is true. Like, when you look at the people that have basically just given up and they just, like, accepted, like, this defeated look, and it does wear on them. You can see it on their face, you can see it on their features, It's like, look at a junkie, right? A junkie is, usually just destroyed even at a young age. And if they do get their life together, it's hard to see that they were the same person. But they got into a point of, like, defeatism, and they don't take care of themselves, and yeah. But I'm saying all this because I think it's very sad that for some reason we're not willing to call out the people, It's not just the people in politics, folks. It's the people that raised you. It's the people that refuse to give you some kind of advantage. You can say that it's unfair all you want, but listen, this world is not fair. They should be trying to give you some kind of advantage, some kind of plan. And yet, they choose not to. They choose to just say that it's all on you, you need to improve your lives and stuff like that. When realistically speaking, let's just be honest. If no one ever gives you a chance and no one ever gives you any kind of assistance, and you try and do this from the ground up, it is possible, but it is a hurdles climb, to say the least. It is really something. But but I'm gonna kind of leave it there. I just really wanted to talk about that. I've been thinking about that for a while. You know, a friend of mine showed a video on his channel. Talking about a dumpster fire. I won't say it, but it's not hard to figure out. But I just feel like it's people like our parents that could have helped us in the darkest moments of our lives, and they choose not to. And had they chose to, I feel like our lives wouldn't be such a dumpster fire. But I don't know if I want to say hope you enjoyed listening to a bit of depressing talk, but I do hope that you got something out of it. If you guys aren't doing well, please, I am here. I can't necessarily talk all the time, but I'm always open to talk in the comments because I do kind of want to know how you guys are doing. You never know how long someone's got left before, they snap if they aren't being heard. So if you do need someone to talk to, please do talk to me in the comments. Thank you guys as always. God bless. I will see you guys next time.